Hi, everyone. I am Wendy Watson, the hostess with the Mostest for the Sass Cash and Class conference that I'm organizing right here in Denver next April 5th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a happy hour soiree to follow. The mission of this conference is to show women that we can have it all without feeling like we have to sacrifice anything, because there's too many women out there that feel like they have to sacrifice their health and wellness for their kids, their relationship, for the career, or vice versa. And it's just not true. And today we're going to talk to Miss Liz Rutledge, who's going to be one of our expert panelists at the conference. And Liz, would you like to introduce yourself for a moment? Tell everybody who you are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy. Liz Rutledge. I like to say that my superpower is teaching mindfulness meditation to a room full of people without it being woo-woo and weird. There's actually a lot of neuroscience behind it. I've been teaching mindfulness to children and teens for over a decade and working with adults as I can and as they're receptive. So, done workshops with my business partner, Dr. Serena Bullard. During COVID, we pivoted and developed an online course collection that includes mindfulness, resiliency, happiness, visioning, and growth mindset techniques. And we have a program for young children that we are actually currently rebranding, but we have it in 3 schools and it's getting fantastic results. So we're feeling really positive about the impact that we're having, living our passion and our purpose. I'm a mom of 3 and had my struggles as a mom, balancing all the things. I've always had a side hustle while raising my children, and my husband was traveling like 90% of the time. So I always like to say I was a single mom with means, because although I would never, want to degrade the value of the single mom, it was a lot of work and it was really hard. And I would say, like, one of the things for me that really has helped is the mindfulness meditation. And I've done it more and more over the years and developed a more and more peaceful center and be able to handle whatever comes my way. I'm also very passionate about the environment. So the sustainable happiness together comes from that. And so, in addition to all the mindfulness meditation that I teach, I also support my community in learning how to reduce waste to the landfill, recycle, compost, all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing that kind of work for at least 12 years.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I've worn a lot of hats like every woman in the world, like multitasker extraordinaire.
Like every woman on this planet, right? So
Right.
what are some of the tips and tricks that you use other than meditation to help you balance all the things that you have going on in your world?
Yoga. I mean, yoga for so many reasons. Like, there's a lot of like, I'll go to physical therapy now and I'll be like, that's yoga. That's yoga. You know what I mean? So, like,
Mhm.
moving my body, whether it's walking, biking, yoga, just something to give the body, a little love and nourishment and attention to be able to handle, as I'm getting older and my joints are more creaky, getting up before everyone else, having my me time in the morning. And sometimes that means burning the candle on both ends, but literally getting up before everyone else, the dog and I'll literally go time to meditate, and she'll assume the position next to me on the floor. And I meditate every morning, mostly without fail for 10 minutes or more. And that has been a saver. I'm also just having time to plan and reflect, which is a lot more challenging. The more I plan and take the time to plan, I feel like things go more smoothly. Um, those are probably the big 3, right? Like
Yes.
movement, time to yourself, and planning.
Oh
And
my
then you
God.
kind of feel like you can handle those things that come and, knock you off your pedestal, your pedestal, knock
It's
you
a
off your horse.
it's a great setup, a great morning routine. A lot of millionaires and billionaires and entrepreneurs have a very similar routine. So I love that. Why the SAS Cash and Class Conference?
Oof. Well, I think that, well, Sass, like everyone who wants to have an impact has to be a little sassy, set boundaries, push, hold a boundary. Did I say that already? Push for what you want, right? So be a little sassy, maybe a little silly. Cash, because I was just shocked by the statistic that you just told me that 97% of venture capital goes to men and 3% goes to women and minorities. So that needs to change yesterday. Um, and so, but also, like, I personally, I'm sure everybody has their own money journey. I've done a lot of work on my money mindset over the last 2 years. And I feel like, you have those little ahas, and then there's another level. So the cash aspect for women is big and huge. The more money we have, the more of a positive impact we can have on the world. We can do things that we need to take care of ourselves. And class, just because, I mean, we want to show up classy. Also, we want to be able to enjoy those little things in life that make us feel special, like getting our nails done, or riding in a limo, or getting a massage. Whatever we need to do. I would take class beyond like diamonds and pearls and fancy dresses to like also just thinking, like, just going back to the mindfulness, like, how do you want to show up in the world? Do you want to be remembered as, I've had 4 friends die in the last 6 weeks of very sudden illnesses. Like, one was an illness and the other 3 were cardiac arrest. And so realizing, like, you're going to be remembered a specific way. And I've really been, this was a real wake up call for me about, like, how do I want to be remembered? Do I want to be remembered as that person who was always nagging people about recycling and was always late, and gossiped? Or do I want to be remembered as a person who showed up with an open heart, who was generous, kind, present, loving? So I would add to that class, like, that's part of it. Like, well, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as classy?
Yes, I love that. Do you want to be remembered as classy?
I do.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so the majority of our audience are going to be women, more than likely. They are going to have kids, right? And I'm sure one of the things that you overcome in your professional field is the adults that have some barriers around meditations and wanting to incorporate that in with the kids. What is some of the things that you do or say to help the adults understand how important meditation is, not just for them, but also, most importantly, the kids?
I think, well, I think that wow, so many thoughts. One of the things would be that quote that people won't remember what you said or did. I'm paraphrasing, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So if you're somebody who has had a lifetime of anxiety like I have, because my mother had an abusive alcoholic father, for example, my mother did the best she could, but she definitely, caused some traumas and that level of anxiety, thinking that it always has to be that way. And then with my own children, definitely slipping and falling. But how do I want to be remembered, right? I want to be remembered for how I made them feel. So I guess that would be one thing to attempt to instill. But the reality is, Wendy, I've had the most success through teaching the children. Um, I started with teenagers, teens and tweens, and then I was like, oh God, we got to go younger. And then did work in the elementary school level. And now our programs for as young as age 3. And I just wanted to share something that I was approached yesterday by a mom at the school where I teach mindfulness. She came up to me. She's also the school nurse. She's like, I have 4 kids at this school. And over fall break, we were on a hike and I was feeling really anxious. She's like, I deal with a lot of anxiety. And I was like, yeah, me too. And she was like, I was feeling really anxious that the kids couldn't make the hike. And one of my kids said, well, when I feel that way, Mom, I do what Miss Liz taught me, and then proceeded to teach a breathing technique that I teach. And so I feel like maybe beyond trying to convince the parents or the moms that our children are way wiser than we are, and they're probably here to teach us really, at the end of the day. Um, but those kids may not, because they're not being introduced to it at home, or like I was by my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
um, they might not have those tools and techniques, which is why we'd love to get our program big and wide. um, I for me, it's like it took big things in my life. Like my best friend died when I was 35, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a poor me anymore, and I took a lot of steps to show up differently from that. And then you have, maybe you get a little bit of feedback and you're like, oh gosh, I really want to show up differently. And then maybe four of your friends die in 6 weeks and you're like, wow, I need to do something now. So if it's, whether it's a life event that causes that motivation, it might be going to a seminar or a conference like what we are doing with the Sass Cash in class. But how many times do you go home from a conference or a workshop and you're like, that was so great, and then you don't change a thing, right? So I feel like those testimonials from other parents that they've learned through their kids. I'd love to think that people would do our course collection, but at the end of the day, like, we are responsible for how we are remembered, how we show up, you know. So I just thought by sharing that, maybe that would answer your question. I don't
Yeah,
know.
for sure. One of the things that we're trying to promote is for women to bring their daughters, their nieces, granddaughters, maybe. What would you say to the moms and the women out there to help encourage them to bring the little ones?
Did you hear that 97% of venture capital goes to men? No. Um, hmm. Well, with my kids when they were little, I would just take them. I'd be like, we're doing this now. So that would be one approach if they're young enough.
Mm-hmm.
If they're resistant, usually there has to be some kind of bribery involved, like, and I'll buy you lunch. Just come and see what it's like. There's going to be freebies. It's a great chance to meet people. With my oldest is 23 now. I might say, hey, I'm I'm going to this conference and it's going to be very empowering for women. I know you haven't been loving your job in HR. Would you want to come and just see if maybe it'd be a great chance to meet some people, and then hope that
Mm.
by listening that she would get something out of it. But in my experience with my own children, I can't get them to do anything. I can't make them do anything anymore. Like, I hope that I had enough of a positive influence when they're young, but
Yeah.
I think that you have to offer it. Like, you would say, hey, do you want to ride to the movies? Or hey, do you want to go to the park and ride on the swings? And if they say no, then you go, okay, we'll get a babysitter for you or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to this thing. And just and hope that they say yes.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. So, what is one thing in preparation for this conference and to try and entice people to really want to come and hear you and Serena speak on the expert panelists and be able to ask you questions personally and directly? What is one thing that you would like to leave the audience with today?
I think I've had the best success helping people feel the difference when they do the meditation, when I lead it. I think that the fact that a lot of what Serena and I both teach is now backed by lots of neuroscience, people can geek out to that. And, but I think if they can feel, if we could do some kind of even just a quick mindful minute, helping people feel the difference in their body, feeling their whole body relax, maybe for the first time ever in their lives, might inspire them to want to learn more about what we do and be like, gosh, I wish I had this when I was a kid. And then maybe be inspired to introduce our program to their school or their friend's school or their sister's school, or if they're a teacher,
Mhm.
encourage their school to do the program that we have developed. We're rebranding it to include a lot more neuroscience, get it animated so it's more acceptable to the young child's brain, because an adult talking at you as when you're a young child is not inspiring, but a butterfly saying, hey, do you ever feel bullied or anxious? here's something that we can do today to, help you alleviate what they're feeling, you're feeling, and shift to something that's more pleasant.
Mhm.
So I guess that would be my hope, that we'll be able to share in an inspiring way, and
Mm.
that that'll have an impact and a ripple
Awesome.
effect.
Yay. Well, come to the conference, the Sass Cash and Class conference, right here in Denver to meet Liz and her partner Serena, who we will be interviewing later this week. And come ask her questions about meditation, about family life balance, about community, and see what kind of tips and tricks she has that she can share with you. So thank you, Liz, for coming on.
My pleasure.
Register, click on the link below. Let's get registered, and we'll see you guys in April.